Hey you guys, today I want to talk about bands and how they handle songwriter credit. So here we go. So recently I was asked a question. If you're in a band and there is a principal songwriter or maybe a couple of songwriters within the band that do all the songwriting, how should the band handle the songwriting credit? Should they give everybody credit in the band equally, or should the principal writers be able to take all credit and all income from the songwriting? So I want to share a story about that, but before I do, I want to set that up a little bit. And I'm going to draw back from my days working in publishing. So my position in publishing was I was the director of production and the studio. And part of my responsibility had to do with the incoming songs and splits. So I got to see how artists, songwriters, and bands handled the splits for their songs. And I can tell you that with bands and songwriter splits, the way that's handled can be tricky, and it can be very important to the whole psychology of how everybody's working in the band together. So you're in a band, and you are the principal songwriter, or maybe you're part of a small collective, 2 people in the band that do all the songwriting. You probably feel like, wow, I'm bringing in my talent, I'm bringing in a lot of hard work, time, bringing in my songs, and I deserve credit for that. I want to someday not only be able to take credit for these songs, but to reap from the economic opportunity once we're successful. So is that fair to the other band members? First of all, in the simplest sense, of course it is. If you're doing all the work, it makes sense from a point of justice. If you're looking what is perfectly just, absolutely, you deserve credit for those songs. You deserve to reap economically from them. The problem that you're facing inside a band is that everybody that steps into the rehearsal room, that loads all the gear into the truck or the van and drives it all over the place and sets up for the gig, all the stuff that goes along with being a band, the difficulty in the early days when you're, maybe traveling from town to town in a van, eating cold burritos from 7-Eleven in the middle of the night, as you're heading off to the next gig, all the stuff that is completely unglamorous about being a band member, everybody is having to wear that equally. And so that becomes a real point as to how this probably should function, how your splits and the way you handle your songwriting credits should function once things start to go right for you in a band. So I want to share a story. This is a story from a friend of mine who was in a huge band. And I'm not going to say who it is or what the band was because I do want to share some specifics here. So my friend was in this band. And early on in the band, they fought a very serious fight, trying to get their name known. They traveled America, they traveled Europe. They faced all of the tough stuff that bands do, trying to get a foot in the door, trying to get things moving. And so finally, the band started to have some success, and they signed a record deal. And when they made their first record, probably everybody in the band was contributing somewhere with the songs. But by the time the first record was out and singles were starting to be released, it really came down to the fact that 2 principal songwriters in that band were having this success. They were writing the singles. They seemed to have a talent that was a little bit beyond the rest of the members. So from that point on, it was really established that with this band, these 2 individuals were the principal songwriters. So fast forward about 2 years from there, my friend is in the office of the band's manager one day. And they're having a chat, and the manager says, you need to get more involved in the songwriting for the band. I don't think you understand how important that is. And he says, I want to show you something. So he takes him into another room. They're cutting checks, about to send out the royalty checks for that period. The manager shows my friend the check that's about to come to them, and he shows them a check that's about to go out to one of the songwriting members of the band, one of these 2 principal songwriting members. And the way my friend put it was this: I was making $200,000 to their $2 million. That immediately created a tremendous amount of anxiety, animosity, feelings that somehow they weren't being treated fairly. So my friend now gets on the phone to the other members of the band that are not these principal songwriters and tells them what's going on. And this creates such a division in the band that within 6 months to a year, the band was completely broken up. Now, they remained close enough that eventually they got back together. Then they made some decisions. They said, look, if we're going to work together as a band, if we're going to fight this fight, then everybody deserves an equal share. And so from that point forward, all songs were split evenly. The splits were given evenly between the members of the band. And it made everybody happy. The problem is that at the height, the prime moment of their career, they fell apart. They broke up. They were never able to really have the same success. They had lost all of their momentum. So that story really illustrates what can happen to a band when the songwriters take all the credit and they make all the money for the songs. I mean, if you think about it, if a band basically builds up out of the dregs and they're able to create a successful venture, I mean, they've done something collectively. Beyond the songs, they've done something really fantastic. Now, anybody will know that's in this business, the song is king. There's no question that the songs will drive success. But a band had to get there somehow in some way. They had to get there and they had to be good at what they're doing if they got there. So in that sense, you really do need to give credit where credit is due and make sure that everybody that's in that band feels like they're all worthwhile, equal members. I can tell you, working in publishing and dealing with band splits, I find that bands that are willing to share the songwriting credit as far as the economics of it are concerned, share the actual income, those are the bands that last. A couple of good examples I can think of, having worked at Universal, were the bands U2, very successful band, great longevity, and also the Killers. Those bands split all their songs equally in the system. So all of the income goes equally to the members of the band for the songs, whether they all contributed equally or not. So let's look at the Killers for a minute. If we look in the ASCAP database at their songs, we're going to find that all of the songs show all of the members of the band. And if you were able to see the database for their publisher, you would see that all of those songs, the splits are actually equal between the members. However, if you look at how they credit their songs publicly, they want their fans to actually know who wrote what. And that's fine. Look, if I was the member of a band that wasn't really contributing in a strong way as a songwriter, then I don't mind if the lead singer or somebody else takes credit for writing the songs. What I do care about is at the end of the day, I'm not living in a small house while the lead singer's living in a mansion. So I do believe that the songwriting members of the band should be willing to just allow everyone to receive equal income on the songs. I just think it's best if you treat it all like a family. We're all in this together. We fought the battle. We got here together. And if you happen to be the talented songwriter, then spread the love. I think that's the best approach. All right, I hope this was worthwhile to you. You know, if you're a producer, there is a good chance that you may be working with a band member or band members that are writing a song in your studio. And they may be new at this. They may be trying to figure this out. So you may have an opportunity to give them some advice, some input on the subject. So keep this in mind. All right, until next time.